Don't worry, no one here yet.
Hi everybody, here I am in at 7:45. There's 15 minutes to go. We've changed now to a red light. Hopefully it's a little more focused on your end than it is on mine. I'm going to pause in a second, and then when we come back I will have removed my glasses and I will start the process of going into trance from 8 o'clock. Okay? See you in a minute.
No, you want to just keep it going, just keep it live, because people will be starting to come in, and if you end it,
okay.
if you end it
Well,
now,
do I have to keep talking to people?
no, well, you don't have to. Obviously, we're live now. If anybody is watching this after the actual event, if you want to skip forward around about 12 to 15 minutes, that's when the event will actually commence. But for the interest of people being able to come into the video, that's why it's live now. So there isn't actually going to be anything happening for the next 15 minutes. Also, any comments that are put in below will appear live, and if you comment after the event has ended, it will come in at the same point on the video, but it won't be able to be answered unless it's done in the next session.
Just turn it down. Turn it off, please. Just a minute. Thank you. Looks so unprofessional saying all that. I just want to have a secret.
People expect this sort of thing, don't worry.
I'm just not used to doing it.
Yeah, so basically the video, when it's finished, if someone watches it and then comments 5 minutes in, the comment will appear 5 minutes in amongst the other comments.
I'm not being deaf. So I'm just talking to John for the benefit of my own education. Can this sort of pre-bit be cut out when we do the copy of it to go on YouTube?
On YouTube, yes, on Facebook now.
Right, okay. If you're watching and wondering why it's on a red screen, it's not. It's just looking at the wall at the moment, because I'm having a sneaky puff of my e-cig before I go into trance. So nothing of interest to see at the moment. Either that or we've landed on Mars and there's no visible images anywhere.
Lie down, dogs. Don't play up.
Come on guys, lie down.
Lie down.
The reason the dogs have just got a bit shirty is they can tell that the spirit's in the room.
Lie down.
Yes, they know you're here just as much as you know they're here. They will settle in a minute. For them it's just like anybody else visiting the house in human form. They get excited when they arrive, then they settle down and get into it, as it were, and they're quite comfortable then. I'm just going to turn it back to face me now I'm talking. For those of you who've not experienced trance before, I have put it on the prequel video, which is currently uploading on Facebook, about the red light and things like that. Well, the reason we have that is to make it easier for those watching to be aware of any activity from the discarnate world, from the spirit world, going on at the time. I'm not a physicist or whatever it happens to be, certainly not scientifically based in any way, shape or form. I only just about know how to fill up the e-cig. But apparently the red light makes it a little easier for the energies to come into our conscious arena, if you like, this room that we're sat in. Plus the red light uses a lot less electrical energy, which can cause disruption, which is why in the olden days, but I say the olden days, in the mid to late 19th century, when physical mediumship was really at its peak, its height, right there up until the repeal of the Witchcraft Act in the 50s and replacement with the fraudulent mediumship Act. I can't even remember the year now, but it's the one that was used to prosecute people like Helen Duncan. But in those days, they would use very much subdued lighting. Sometimes they would use a red light if they had electricity, or they would take an oil lamp and actually just paint the glass bowl, the bit that expands the light into the room from the little burning wick. They would paint that red so there was a red glow cast around the room. Now, some of the detractors will say that that is actually a way by which we can, one, psychologically make people think that we're doing something spooky and etheric, which of course is not true. There's nothing, sorry, it's neither spooky nor illogical or immoral or wrong what we're doing. We're simply inviting our friends from the spirit world to make communication, and in those days it would be a lot easier. So what I will say to anybody who is going to be watching the trance broadcast, which is in about 9 minutes, a few minutes I will stop and start going into a trance state, so that we can use as much of the episode for the actual questions and answers that I hope you're going to be putting to Morning Star. But no, going back to this red light thing, I am, as you can tell, paraphrasing. I'm not working off a script. The red light or the subdued light would make it easier for the sitter's physical eyes to see the presence. Oh, he's beginning to get close to me now. That's why my voice is getting a bit stuck on word. It's quite normal for me. Either that or I'm having another stroke, and I don't think I'm having that. So the subdued lighting certainly helped calm people down because they were nervous or uncertain of what's happening, because it's a brand new thing for them at the time. And I know for some of you watching tonight, it will be the first time you will have hopefully witnessed trance take place. Also, it helped with the ambience in the room. Rooms can get very, very hot during physical mediumship. Even so more if we're using a cabinet and there's the potential for ectoplasm and free movement of trumpets and table tilting and chairs moving around and all that sort of thing that you may have seen described or read about or even witnessed yourself, but the red light seems to make that easier for people to observe and see. Certainly not doing it from a point of view of trying to hide anything. As I said in the prequel video, there is no need for us to use wires and sleight of hand or smoke and mirrors and all that. Whatever you see will be genuinely there, and it would help us. As I say, I'm not in control of my body or my facial features while I'm being tranced by Morning Star, or whoever it is who in the past has tranced me. But I am aware. You know, if you're in that state where you're sort of dropping off to sleep at night, but you can still hear the television or the music that's playing, but you're sort of straddling the two parts of existence, the being awake state and the being asleep state. Well, it's a bit like that for me when I'm in trance. And it's an interesting position to be in, because I'm aware of some of what is being said, There are moments where I zone out completely, and that's when Morningstar's chancing of me will be at its strongest. As I said, my head doesn't spin round, I don't breathe fire. The likelihood of you seeing ectoplasm is about as likely as, well, it's not going to happen. These sorts of activities don't take place. That's for the realms of Hammer House and horror films and spoof films and that sort. They would take place, and they can and do take place in certain physical mediumship circles. But in my case tonight, it's going to be a gentle trance from a gentle and loving person, and I can feel him getting close now. So I'm going to remove my glasses so you get to see my full facial features.
I've got one other person in here at the moment.
I'm going to ask John if he could just zoom out a little bit. Is that possible? Just as a little bit more of that's in. Yeah, that'll do. That's fine. So people have got an image of my head and upper body. So if anything does happen, you should be able to see it quite simply and quite easily.
I think people are having technical problems, you know.
It would appear that people are joining in and then disappearing very quickly. I have no idea why. Welcome to you. Once I go into trance, obviously I will have no part in what's going on. It will be down to John. Yes, I will just have that. This is just squashed to wet my whistle. But I can feel my mouth begin to get very dry, which is another sign that spirits are close and want to work through me. John will not be touching the camera during the process. Thank you, darling. Thank you. John will not be touching the camera during this process. It will entirely be static at the time.
Well, we're up to 4 people.
Welcome the 4 of you who have joined in.
Well, I'm one of them.
Just said, I am just about to put myself in a position to go into trance. So I've removed my glasses so you have a clearer image of my face, so there's nothing obscuring my eyes, etc. When I said about people seeing things and being aware of changes, movements, things moving around the room or around my body, if you do see something wherever you are sat and wherever you're watching, please type it in underneath, and John will make a note of the time stamp on the video, and we'll be able to go back, although I will review it anyway, at some point after the event has taken place. Please type in your questions. If you're having difficulty because of an issue with Facebook, it's not with us, it'll be with Facebook, and your message is not appearing below in the question session, and you want to get it out during the time that we're here, John is going to, on occasion, post his mobile number. Can't use my phone because that's the phone we're using for the videoing, because it works better in these subdued lights. You're welcome to text John with your question if you can't get it on the screen, and he will add them in with reference to whoever has sent it. So please at least put your first name, or you can put a known by name, a pseudonym if you don't want your own name to be known. That is not a problem, but obviously do understand that if you place the questions in the comments bar below, that people will be able to see them who are joining in with this session. Please keep your comments polite and courteous. Morningstar is not only a very wise and very knowledgeable member of the spirit world, he is also a very dear and valued brother and friend of mine, and has been apparently for as long as I have been incarnating into physical form, and before that in the spirit world, We have worked together apparently on numerous occasions. I know that in the 25 years I've been a medium, that's certainly been the case. Morningstar has always been front and centre, the one person who I can rely on more than anybody else from spirit. It's funny to say person, the one spirit soul that I can rely on more than anybody else, who will bring forward his knowledge and his understanding, and try and pass it on to those who are watching. So do welcome him, be courteous, be polite. We don't want any overly personal questions. Please don't ask him what your lottery number should be. Are you going to meet a tall, dark, handsome stranger? Should you stay in your relationship or anything like that? He's not here to do personal readings, and that's not his job anyway. He's here to answer questions on spirituality and on the personalities who communicate tonight from this side of life with him. So now, without more rabbiting on from me, I'm just going to sit back, get myself comfortable, and hopefully the next person you see, or hear from at least, will be Morningstar. I will open in prayer.
I'm just doing a quick sound check with the people in there, asking if the sound's okay.
Well, while you're doing that, I'm just going to do a quick prayer to ask for the protection of the spirit world of God at this time, and to keep us all safe and well. Divine and ever-loving Spirit, the one we personalise with the name of Father or Mother God, thank you for this opportunity to meet in this way tonight, to bring together the spirit world and the world of the physical into the same time and space. And I thank you with as much humility as I can manage for using me as a channel for spirit to communicate through, especially one spirit in particular, my dear friend Morningstar. I pray that this house, this space, John and I and the dogs and the fish and all the spirit that are in the room will feel safe, secure and comfortable. And I ask that everybody watching also be protected and covered in love and healing energy at this time. And because I'm praying, I'm also going to ask, when we talk about healing, for the people of Aleppo, the people of Mosul, and the ongoing disastrous actions against them by the war criminals, that's the best way I can put it, behind their constant bombarding, torturing and murdering. They don't do it in your name, however much they may say they do. And they certainly don't do it in our name or in the Spirit's name. We just pray that you
Volume needs to be higher.
put some protection around everybody who needs it at this time. I offer myself as a channel for Spirit to communicate through. We have said it will be Morningstar. It will be entirely up to Morningstar if he permits other spirit souls to come and speak, or if there's a need to. And pray for a blessing on us, on all those who work in this field, to unite the spirit with the physical, and pray that during this gathering, as an experiment in communication through the World Wide Web between a physical earthbound medium being used as a channel for spirit to communicate across the planet at the same time, that your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So now I leave this, and myself in particular, in your care and keeping, and invite Morningstar to draw close now and to communicate through me. In the name of love, Amen. What I will say is, for the benefit of those of you who've watching who've not experienced it, when Morningstar does come into contact with this body of mine and start to take over and has control of it, he'll raise my hand like this, and that will be a signal for you and for John to know that he is in the room, and then he will start talking. I hope. Feel free to ask your questions. Eyes down, here we go. And remember, this is an experiment. Do please say what you see, and don't be afraid to ask your questions of Spirit. Good evening, my dear friends and associates from the world of spirit in your physical incarnation on Mother Earth. I apologize if I have some slight, what you would call technical errors, as I place my spirit soul into the physical body of our friend here and light worker, with whom I have had a long and loving relationship. You may think, as a guide, and as Barry has kindly referred to me, a more advanced soul. Advanced, I assure you, only in knowledge achieved over many, many, many years of time of your understanding. Nevertheless, it's still can be a little uncertain when we do speak through a physical body or channel, as we take over speaking and communicating through a physical voice box, such as Barry and indeed most of you watching will have a physical voice box which resonates with the air from your lungs and helps you to compose and construct the words that help you to communicate on your side of life. We'll say that to you, my brother Jonathan, that you have my sympathy, that Barry has been given such a well-oiled and effective voice box. I'm sure you would be happy on occasion to have an on-off switch on it to perhaps remind him that others have an opportunity and need to speak occasionally. I say this in jest, of course, because what he says with compassion and conviction, and we always welcome that from our side of existence. And to you, friends, colleagues and neighbours, across this beautiful but sickly planet's surface, bid you welcome, and very grateful that we have finally had the opportunity to undertake this experiment. I know that my brother Barry has explained to you what the physicality of our communicating tonight involves. But before I start answering rather your questions and queries, which I hope you will continue to put to me, very briefly wanted to expand on what has already been said. When we are in our physical bodies and reach a stage where that body has worn out and it is our time to go home to the realms beyond this one, where I reside in spirit with your families, your loved ones, and all the panoply of the human and animal race that has existed and walked the surface of this and other heavenly bodies. We lose our ability to communicate as we have done during our sojourn on Mother Earth or wherever we have been. And we need to learn once again the abilities and the skills to communicate effectively with not only you who call on us for advice and help, but with one another. And in spirit, this is a simple process, because everything in spirit is a mental activity, or, as you may wish to use, a psychical activity. We have no physical bodies. We have no need of that limiting and frail carton for traversing the spirit world, because we return to the energy from which we came. And in so doing, we learn to communicate once more in the way we have done for many, many millennia of Earth time. Though again, time is an irrelevance in our world of energy. But to put it in more human terms for your comprehension and understanding. I am sorry, John, if my presence has disturbed your dogs, but I know that they are also happy to be in communication, as very often you and Barry's former pets or animal loved ones are close around them and will communicate with them. And so, returning to what I was briefly trying to explain about communication, our communication therefore becomes psychic, or to use another word, etheric, and we will communicate our ideas, our conversations with one another in what you may call telepathy ways. There was once on this planet a wise and sagacious teacher of humankind in your Far East, who said, when you think it, it becomes so. He was, of course, referring to the fact that everything we say and do will have an equal and measured response from the receiving end of our thoughts. And the same is true with our communication. And yes, it is true that certain of the first level of spirit energies, those who tend to be ones who have come to your earth arena for the first time, do find it hard to communicate, and therefore will create around themselves the images and the vessels and the equipment that would have been used during their physical life for comfort, for a sense of security, but also in order to communicate, as being in those familiar environs will increase their ability to communicate, and they may very well visualize themselves picking up a telephone or taking up pen and paper and writing a letter or a message to those they wish to impart the information they have to share with. And indeed, they will believe that the telephone that they hold in their hand is a direct communicator with the soul they wish to communicate with, or indeed the soul within a physical body left here on Mother Earth. I apologize. Yet it is only visual. It is an aid memoir, something from that past that helps them to achieve their goals in the present, and hopefully as they grow and develop in understanding about how spirit energy manifests itself, they will learn a way in which to communicate where they no longer need to use their mouth or their ears or their eyes or even their sense of smell through their nose, which of course are all non-existent. They are physical manifestations of their true self, for them to feel that sense of familiar surroundings and comfort in their first few faltering steps back in the spirit world. And the same is also true of our, at whatever level of conscious understanding and knowledge we may be we a first returning spirit who has enjoyed their first physical outing into what is called on your side the real world, to continue those images and those thoughts are a sense of comfort. And from the first spirit right the way up, if you consider that a spiritual life and journey is similar or akin to using a ladder in your physical world to climb as you attain more knowledge, you are symbolically moving heavenward in the sense of old religion, believing that God resided in glory above the clouds where the sun is seated, and that the devil lived below in a place where humans have witnessed or did witness in the past as well volcanic eruptions, sulfur fires from the pits of the centre of the earth. That is where they very much believed that Satan was placed. Indeed, in the teachings in the holy man-made books of religion, many talk about the dispatching and descent of Satan or Lucifer down from his position of supreme trust at God's right hand as an angel, down, down, down into the depths of hell, where he would rule as Prince of Darkness for many, many millennia, and would also take on board those spirit souls that return from the transient physical life having used the great blessing of a physical existence for bad, negative and dark purposes, whereas the good and the elect would climb heavenwards towards the sun and the bright, blessed day of the new kingdom of God. As we grow in further knowledge and understanding, we become aware that the world is not a service point on the way between heaven or hell as we journey on through our understanding of life, rather that the spirit realms are all but one. There is space for everyone, and everyone has their place in the realms of spirit. Where, though, depends on how you have lived your life. The things that you have done that have benefited your fellow human being or animal will move you further up into the realms of light. However, on the opposing side, where you exist to cause harm, distress, damage, chaos, and fear, you will, of course, reap your reward, as it were, when you return to spirit and find yourself in the lands of the spirit, in a lower down place that your predecessors have named the grey worlds, in response to our brother Silver Birch's explanation over 100 years ago now of that very process. Still, that is enough on teaching the difference between humans' reasoning and spiritual reality. And I look forward now to receiving any questions that may have come from those watching or those who have submitted questions previous to this event taking place. And Jonathan, I ask you now, if you have any, to give them to me so I may engineer the best answer I can do.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us this evening. Obviously, I've met you before in trance. I've got a few questions that have come through. Actually, the first one kind of does tie it in a way to what you were just discussing. So it's up to you if you want to add anything to that. But the first question was from Sonia Campbell Williams, who asks, "How old does consciousness survive Earth time? And if one chooses to do wrong acts against humanity, will it eventually die out?"
I thank Sonia for her question, and if I may clarify one thing where she says, will it eventually die out? Does she refer to the planet Earth, or does she refer to humankind? I will answer both in a way. Yes, I have covered it to some degree. Looking at the time span, consciousness is continual. It is eternal. So in human terminology, there is no length of finite existence for that consciousness to exist. Within the human body, there is always a finite time, as that body is subject to wearing down, degrading and passing away, returning back into your Mother Earth. But the conscious energy continues past that physical death. Although there are many of us in the spirit world who would say that physical death is spiritual rebirth as you return to the place from whence you came. So in simple terms, there is never an end to consciousness, but to human consciousness there is a physical end, and therefore for those who pass having not had any understanding of the reality of the existence of them as a spirit incarnation in a physical body, they may well spend a period in what may be classed as nothingness, for what we believe when we die will and should naturally have a certain effect on our conscious awareness when we die from the physical to wake up the next dawn, as it were, in the spirit. Sonia also mentions about the deeds that are done, and if too many bad deeds are done, will this cause an end to consciousness or to the earth? The earth itself, this beautiful round ball, is a finite construction, part of the divine and supreme growth and development of physical structures within the physical universe for the world of spirit to inhabit, to experience those events that require our physical presence and our physical feelings in response to them, to enable us to grow spiritually. So the earth in time will pass away, as all manner of physical matter must surely do. The consciousness of humanity will survive, but it must also be said that as the human race continues along the very dangerous path that many of your political and leaders in authority are doing at the moment in the support of genocidal acts against innocent people, especially those new souls who are but young children. And indeed, my instrument here, Barry, gave rise and mention to the ones that must be in your sphere of conscious thought at the moment as healers and people who care. Mankind, humankind, has had so many opportunities to improve, to grow and understand the knowledge that they need with which to safely manage this planet, of which, as others have said before myself tonight, you are only stewards. You are caretakers to ensure that this planet continues to be a haven of safety, compassion, joy, love and spiritual understanding for those who inhabit it, whilst your souls will continue. If the pathway that your governments are intent on pursuing at this time continues to move forward, then the repercussions for humanity are dire in this physical existence. War is an opportunity to learn, in just as much as attending a school classroom as a child or as an adult in your extra education classes and courses are opportunities for learning. War is another classroom. Human existence, however, is the school. And the whole experience must, as it does to us in the spirit world, in equivalence, leave many of you who follow a spiritual path with what I've heard called a sour taste in your mouths as you watch man set himself against man, woman against woman, child against child, nation against nation. The joy of learning that this is something where, however far down the wrong track you may have gone, there is also, by your self-recognition and admonition of your failings in the past, to restart your study, to learn, to evolve, and to grow as spiritually loving and inclusive people. That will certainly help the consciousness of humanity to continue for much longer than it currently seems likely to do. I hope those answers have helped you, Sonia, and give you every blessing from our side of existence. Do we have other questions?
We've got 5 questions in total, yeah. The other question from Sonia was actually very similar, so I'll leave her to write in the comments if she needs any further clarification, because the 2 questions are kind of linked together.
I think that is fair.
In the meantime, Tabitha asks, Morningstar, can I please ask you, is it only through Barry that you communicate with the living world?
Absolutely not. Tabitha. It's a lovely name. I have known of one of the archangelic realms occupiers who is known as Tabitha the Good from her last journey in what is now known as Tajikistan, in the area currently known as the Russian Bear. Thank you for your question. Yes, I do indeed communicate with others, but my great joy and privilege has been to be given the responsibility throughout all of his physical incarnations, as I no longer feel the need or have the need to take human form for the foreseeable future in your timing. Barry is my principal conduit during his journey this time, but yes, I have and do communicate with others, but I do not have such a close relationship with them as I do with Barry. It really is as easy as slipping a hand into an old favourite glove when I have the privilege to communicate to you and your friends, families, colleagues and loved ones by using his physical body as the host for my channel, as it were. I do not refer to a television or radio channel. I talk about the channeling of my energy into a finite and limited space so that I may communicate freely with you and one another. Thank you for your question, and may you and those you love be blessed always.
Okay, so the next question is from Chrissy, and she says, Morningstar, is Barry still in there while you yourself, Morningstar, is there, or does Barry leave what's effectively his body?
Thank you for that question. I believe that Barry did explain this in a small way in the small piece that he delivered prior to this event. I will answer specifically about Barry by explaining, if I may, in brief terms, how this communication is made available through what is called trance. With many of my spirit guide associates and colleagues here on our side of existence, remembering, of course, that we are but energy, and all that energy is part of the great divine power. When they overtake, or rather take over their medium or their channel's physical body, they do so completely. And in most cases, history would dictate that most of the souls that would normally occupy their bodies will vacate them. So the spirit soul, such as myself or other guides and helpers, the masters, etc., who wish to communicate through the physical body of a medium, will be able to do so in total liberty. My relationship with Barry is such that I have full control of his body's physical movements. Were he in not such a good, such a poor, apologies, situation with regarding his back and the issues that presents him regarding pain, I would happily stand up and show you that I have total freedom to move and control his body as I am doing now and wish to. However, because of his health condition, I will not do that, not because I could cause any further harm, but as it can be very painful for him when his body moves even in the slightest way for any purpose, even just adjusting his position sitting in this chair, where that causes the electrical spasms of pain that he receives, which I know Jonathan and a number of you have witnessed only too sadly on many occasions, that purely physical sense of pain might shock him back into full control of his body, and with me occupying it and him occupying it at the same time, that could have unpleasant and unrequired consequences for his physical situation. And none of us in spirit would ever wish to do that to those who allow us to work through their bodies, which is a great privilege. In regard to whether he is here or has gone away, he effectively retires from control of his physical body, and I slide in front, as it were. You may notice I will try a more concentrated effort towards the end of this discussion and questioning session to superimpose or overshadowing my facial features over Barry's. Only at that point, where I will be working intently, will he temporarily relieve or relinquish control of his physical body to me alone. And released again as spirit, he will for a period go off into a meditative state or return to the halls of learning, or will do something to occupy himself, although he is still attached, rather like the umbilical cord attaches a newborn baby to its host mother, be that human until that cord is cut, at which point that newborn can float away freely or exist independently of being connected. But there still remains a strong emotive bond between the mother and the child, and vice versa, and it is the same with Barry and his physical body, or any other sensitive and their physical body. So Barry can hear to a degree what we are discussing and what I am saying, but not in a way where he may simply take control back. I would relinquish control at the end of a session and then help him to return to full control of his physical faculties. I trust that helps answer your question, and may you have the joy of a peaceful and loving life.
Thank you very much. Right, I've got another one here. I'm just trying to find it. From Martin, who says, "Dearest Morning Star, thank you for coming to speak with us. I ask if you have any messages for me, please. Thank you."
When you say messages, and this I know Barry has mentioned previously, because it is one thing I insisted on being said, that I will not be providing any personal, as a known on your side of life, readings on this occasion, as it is an educational and spiritual understanding session. However, dear friend, you have, and here I break my own rule, you have undergone a great deal of trauma in your young life this time round. I know as I say young, you will now be smiling or laughing. Do not for any moment feel that what has happened is in any way negative. It may, from a human and physical sense, feel disturbing, distressing, unsettling and painful for your emotions at this time, and that is only as it should be. However, it is a lesson in life that you have chosen to experience before you took human form. You see, dear friends, all who are watching, as I have taught Barry, as I was so taught, we may return to physical form as many times as we wish during our existence, which is, in your terms, eternal. And we may choose to do that for a number of reasons. It may be for us to have a chance to put right something that we did wrong in a previous existence. It may be so that we can experience the feelings or emotions that we have not yet gone through, so that they be engineered in that particular lifetime to help us understand the emotions and feelings of others in our physical existence, but from our spiritual education requirements for understanding, we have the opportunity to learn from the transference or transmission of the applicable energies of our experience, to grow in further understanding before we return to spirit, and that hopefully, using the ladder analogy that I did previous to this question, we may find ourselves climbing further up the ladder of spiritual advancement. And yes, dear brother, it has been a less than easy time for you, as I understand from my observations of you communicating with both Jonathan here and Barry and the other people that you have communicated with, who I am aware of from the realms of spirit. However, I would say to you, and this is the only personal piece of advice that I have, to use an misquoted human statement. That which does not kill you can only help you to become stronger or make you stronger. You are surviving very well through your otherwise painful experiences, and you will succeed. Have no doubt of that. Be happy, Martin. Let go of your past so that you may freely embrace your as yet unknown but blessings rich future. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so there's a couple that have been related kind of to messages, so not for the, yeah, I'm not going to read them.
If I may say, messages, again, and I apologise for interjecting, but I want to make the most of every moment I have here for those who are watching, so that they may learn, and indeed on reviewing afterwards, Barry may learn extra information and understanding himself. Messages which presumably are linked to the loss of someone who is now in the world of spirit but may well have been in the physical sphere of influence, such as a family member or a dearly loved older friend, for those who are watching. Messages exist from the realms of spirit to produce just one true thing, and that is to give people an understanding that life is eternal, albeit in a different format physically to the heavy, disjointed and lumbering bodies that each of you use to carry your soul through this physical experience-filled journey. Those messages come to prove that the spirit world exists, is around the recipients of those messages, and wants to tell them that they are still alive, and that they are still, to use your words, going strong in the spirit world. So messages are not appropriate for this education session. If you wish to have a personal message, find a local medium or psychic, or go to your local spiritualist or Christian spiritualist group or church and ask for a reading there. Better still, spend time in meditation, for each and every one of you has a gift of some sort that enables you to communicate with the spirit world, be it as a medium, be it as a psychic, be it as a healer, be it as a reader of spiritual matters. If you link in a time of peace and quiet, you will be able to get the answers you need from those who listen on your particular sphere of awareness. I apologise, Jonathan, please carry on.
Okay, so thank you. Right, Chrissy has asked a question, which is, what was you, Morning Star's life when you lived? Now, I know that as soon as you answer this, it's going to be probably many lives, but that was what she wanted to ask.
Okay, you would, under the normal circumstances, be absolutely correct. I have undertaken many physical incarnations during what we call human existence time, from the earliest days until most recently the closing part of the, as you call it, 19th century. I have lived as a Native American, Indian. I have lived in Africa. I have lived south poles, always in human form, and always in order for me to learn. However, now, as I have learned so much, I have voluntarily, as do all guides really, surrendered my opportunity to take a physical incarnation for a period of time so that I can assist, in this case, Barry, with whom I have had the closest association than anyone else. There are many names given to us in our relationships with our channels. I like the word brother, but the fact is, I have been his guide, his patron, his spirit friend, his doorkeeper, and his senior guide. There is no hierarchy of power and authority in the world of spirit. I consider myself to be a spirit who is currently working for the betterment of all life kind, but for those particularly who come into the sphere of influence of Barry's physical presence. Thanks to these new electronic technical advances that your planet is making day by day on occasions, we can now reach people in a much wider and broader and slicker way than when we originally came to communicate. What I will say is that this particular experience is something that I am enjoying greatly, as the time that I have is limited, as I can only communicate through Barry when Barry is either well enough to receive me into his physical body, and where I have time to communicate through him to those who wish to know and understand and grow further, as your lives are so very full of activity these days, considerably more than when I last had physical incarnation myself, as I say, in what you would call the mid to late Victorian period. We did not have, for the masses, the benefit of powered flight, motor cars, charabancs, buses, or anything of that nature. We went everywhere on foot or on horseback or in carriages, and in wishing to spread a message or gospel of continued existence, that was made much, much harder than it is today with all the equipment we have available. I hope that helps you, except one other thing that I have only been asked once before, but I do understand. It is something that many people would like to know but are afraid or sometimes feel embarrassed to ask. And it's in two parts. Firstly, when your channel, your medium, in my case Barry, dies and returns purely to the discarnate world of spirit, do I die with him? No. How can I die if I am eternally alive? Any more than Barry will die, or you will die. Merely your carriage, your physical body, will die away to nothing. But you will continue and be remembered and recalled with great fondness and longing as time moves on. And secondly, no, although we are very close to our spirit in physical form channels, friends, brothers, associates, We do not observe you at every private moment of your life. We have no reason to communicate with you whilst you are going about your daily washing habits or using your lavatories, or when you are in moments of intimacy with your loved ones, any more than our friends from family and associates, also in spirit, would do. So although we are very close, we are not voyeuristic or controlling of all the time around you. Although we can be aware of the positive energy that may arise and be emitted into the world of the ether by you and your loved ones enjoying that moment of conjoinment. I hope that again helps in some small way, and may you always know peace and joy in your life. May I ask how many more questions have been submitted, Jonathan, as I'm aware that Barry's body is tiring?
Yeah. There's only one more question, so if you wanted to answer that and then close.
If I may say, there is only this question now. Thank you to those who have asked. However, after I have answered this question, assuming I can, I will attempt a full, quick overshadowing of Barry's face, and I would ask you all at that point to comment through your computers and telephones or whatever you are using to watch this broadcast upon, if you see anything, so that Jonathan may relate, because some may see something, some may see all of it, some may see none of it. But it is useful if you share with others who may be struggling to see what they have seen, or to say what you have seen, so that they may have the opportunity of seeing it themselves. So, may I ask what the final question was?
It's from a lady called Leslie, and Leslie did initially ask whether her work was going to become less physically demanding, because I think she might be struggling. I did explain that was, I would ask the question, but you may or may not answer it because it could be related to a reading. But then she's asked another one, which is that she's of the understanding, rightly or wrongly, that spirit guides are all on different levels, and can you, Morningstar, explain this? And if so, what level are you on at the moment?
Very good questions, Leslie. It's a pleasure to see you again. I know I have communicated with your guide in the past over communication that has gone between yourself and Jonathan and Barry. Your work will always keep you busy. But the brief answer is, my friend, do not think that the work you do now is the work you are truly doing. The most important work that you do now is the way in which you allow yourself to love unconditionally and to be there for those of your circle of friends and family who often are in need of support and a broad shoulder to lean upon in times of difficulty. Your physical work is indeed demanding, I understand that, and I applaud you, as does your guide, for the fact that you can do what you do. If I may be so bold as to speak on behalf of those who work in the healing spheres, you have much yet to do, Leslie. Your work is by no means over. It is only just beginning. And you will have a great deal to do which will directly benefit humankind. It will happen in ways you would have never have considered possible in the past. Your physical work will die away. Your spiritual work will continue until the day your physical body dies away. And then, dear sister, we will welcome you back into the realms of the guides, back in spirit. As to the second part of your question, we are all climbing, as I have mentioned already this evening, the different rungs of spiritual awareness and knowledge. Whilst it is true that the masters and mistresses of the spirit world, those you may have heard of, being Jesus of Nazareth, Kuthumi, Hilarion, Mistress Lady Nada, Mistress Lady Kuan Yin, and all of the mastery level have achieved mastery. They are, if you like, the black belts of their particular discipline, to use a human and physical analogy that you may be able to understand. Yet they continue to learn, for it is only in acknowledging that we know very, very little that we can grow more. And whilst I may be on one level, and your guide may be on a different level, it is purely a state of understanding and consciousness. For me personally, again, to put it into humans' limited ability to comprehend the vastness of total existence as pure energy. I have held 7 physical incarnations. 5 of those incarnations were of my own volition, so that I may learn and grow in understanding. So you could say that after those 5 journeys on earth, where I did most definitely acquire new and more valuable understanding of existence, of human suffering, of human capacity, limitless and boundless capacity for joy, that I had climbed 5 rungs of this imaginary ladder. And the last 2 incarnations that I have had in human form have been to work in direct association in a physical way with those from our side of life who live in human form, to advance communities rather than to simply influence one individual. And if I did achieve that, you may say that each one was worthy of another 5 rungs on the ladder. However, you would be missing the point. The point is not that there is a ladder with X amount of rungs that have to be ticked off before you can climb them. As your understanding grows, what is important is there is a ladder there, as a symbolic, a mémoire, to remind us that we are here to learn and to understand. The Master, who you have known in human life as Confucius, together with the Lord Buddha, both said at different times, the student of life who believes they have learnt all they have to learn have failed to master the first lesson, because the more you know, the more you realise you still have to learn. Because, dear friends, life is continuous, it is eternal, and there can be no limitation on those who wish to learn. The ladder is symbolic. The studying and the acknowledgement of the new understanding that you have achieved is far from symbolic, but it helps to remind us that there are lots more rungs to climb. May your compassion and understanding of spirit truth, and may your relationship with the divine within you bless you always. And thank you for your questions. Thank you, Jonathan, for your help this evening in passing on the questions. I will now attempt to overshadow Barry's facial features. What I would ask all of you watching to do is to observe not so much this particular space here, but if you look to here, to the area just above and between the eyes, which you commonly call the third eye, the one of psychic and mediumistic resonance. Allow yourselves to relax, to not think of anything else, and to allow any distractions to take place. And I will attempt to overshadow you, my friend who is now listening, so he knows what is about to happen. To you who are watching or listening, I give you my thanks, my grace, my healing, my love, but most of all the blessing of us in the spirit world. For once I have finished the overshadowing, I will withdraw. And Jonathan, please be aware that Barry will need to drink quite a lot of liquid as he comes back into human consciousness and control of his faculties.
Mm-hmm.
God bless you, one and all, and I pray that your journey be blessed, that your nights be short, and that your days be full of opportunity that only you can take hold of.
thank you to everybody for watching and all your questions, and please feel free to share this video if you want to view it again. It will be saved on here, and it will also be saved on YouTube as well, so if you want to watch it you can either do it here or on YouTube. Barry needs to rest now, so I'm going to turn off the live feed, but thank you everybody for watching. You've had some great questions answered, and obviously thank you to Morningstar, who's now moved away. I'm going to sign off now, and take care and keep watching Spirit Shack TV.